Tell her. No. Tell her. I said no. Maxwell sat quietly as his friends argued around him. The table was full of food. The drinks were cold. People around them were laughing. But at their table, nobody was smiling. At least not Maxwell. His eyes were fixed on the ground. His hands were locked together. His heart felt heavy. Very heavy. One of his friends pointed at him. Look at him. Everyone looked. He hasn't slept well in days. Another friend nodded. Exactly. That's why he should keep quiet. The only friend who supported telling the truth rolled his eyes. That makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. How? Because his marriage is happy. So why destroy it? The others nodded. Exactly. Leave it alone. Forget about it. Take it to your grave. The friend shook his head. You people are unbelievable. One of the others laughed. And you are unbelievable. The table burst into laughter. Even Maxwell managed a small smile. But it disappeared quickly. The moment the laughter ended, the weight returned. The same weight, the same pain, the same fear. His friend looked at him. Maxwell. Maxwell raised his head. Yes. What do you want to do? The table became quiet. Everybody waited. Maxwell swallowed. I don't know. You know. No. You do. Maxwell sighed. He rubbed his face. I love my wife. Nobody spoke. I really love her. His voice was low. If I lose her... He couldn't finish the sentence. The friend who wanted him to keep quiet leaned forward. Then don't tell her. Another nodded. Simple. She doesn't need to know. Some secrets are better buried. The only friend who disagreed laughed. You people are dangerous. One of them pointed at him. And you want to ruin his life. I want him to tell the truth. And I want him to stay married. The table exploded again. The argument continued. Back and forth. Back and forth. But Maxwell barely heard them anymore. Because deep inside, he already knew the truth. The problem was not whether he should tell Becky. The problem was finding the courage to do it. My name is Patience. Welcome to Etanalog. That evening, Maxwell sat alone in his car. The engine was off. The house was right in front of him. He could see the lights through the window. Becky was inside, waiting for him. Like always, Maxwell closed his eyes. He remembered the day they got married. Only 11 months ago. 11 months. Sometimes it felt like yesterday. Sometimes it felt like forever. A small smile appeared on his face. Then it disappeared, because every happy memory now came with pain. He took a deep breath. Then another. Finally, he stepped out of the car. The moment Maxwell entered the house, Becky smiled. There you are. Her voice was warm. The kind of voice that made a house feel like home. Maxwell forced a smile. Sorry I'm late. You always say that. He laughed softly. Because I'm always late. Becky shook her head. One day I'll start charging you. Maxwell laughed again. This time the smile lasted longer. Becky walked over and fixed his shirt collar. You look tired. I'm fine. You always say that too. Maxwell looked away. Becky noticed. She always noticed. But she didn't push. Instead, she smiled. Dinner is ready. The two of them sat together. They talked. They laughed. They ate. To anybody watching, they looked like a happy couple. Because they were. That was the painful part. They really were. Later that night, they sat together on the couch. A movie played on the television. Becky was leaning against his shoulder. Maxwell wasn't even watching. His mind was somewhere else. Far away. Lost inside thoughts he could not escape. Suddenly, Becky paused the movie. Maxwell looked at her. What happened? She turned and faced him. Okay. What? What is bothering you? Maxwell's heart skipped. What do you mean? Maxwell. She smiled softly. You know you can tell me anything, right? Maxwell felt a lump form in his throat. He forced a smile. Everything is fine. Becky stared at him. For a few seconds, she said nothing. Then, she placed a hand on his chest, right above his heart. Maxwell froze. I know something is bothering you, she said gently. His eyes lowered. But when you're ready to tell me, she smiled. I'm always here, okay? Maxwell could barely breathe. Okay. Becky kissed his cheek. Then she pressed play and continued watching the movie. But Maxwell wasn't watching. Her words kept repeating inside his head. I'm always here. I'm always here. I'm always here. Every time he heard those words, the guilt became worse. 2 days later, Maxwell visited his mother. The old woman opened the door. The moment she saw him, she sighed. You still haven't told her? Maxwell looked down. No. His mother shook her head. The two of them sat in silence. Then she spoke. Son. Maxwell nodded. I know you're scared. He said nothing. I know you love your wife. Still nothing. But keeping secrets has never protected a marriage. Maxwell stared at the floor. His mother continued. You already know what you have to do. What if she leaves? The question came out almost like a whisper. His mother looked at him sadly. What if she finds out another way? Maxwell had no answer. His mother reached for his hand. You cannot control what happens after the truth. His eyes became wet. But you can control whether the truth comes from you. Maxwell closed his eyes. The words hit him hard. Very hard. Because deep down he knew she was right. That night, Maxwell lay beside Becky. The room was dark. The house was quiet. Becky was already asleep. Maxwell stared at the ceiling. His eyes refused to close. His mind refused to rest. Beside him was the woman he loved. The woman who trusted him. The woman who believed in him. The woman who thought everything was okay. Maxwell turned and looked at her. A tear rolled down his face. Then another. And another. He quickly wiped them away. But more came. Because for the first time, the secret no longer felt hidden. It felt alive, growing bigger every day. And Maxwell was beginning to realize something terrifying. The longer he waited, the harder it would become to tell the truth. The next morning, Maxwell woke up before Becky. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor. His heart felt heavy again. The same weight, the same secret, the same fear. A few moments later, he felt two arms wrap around him from behind. Becky, good morning. Maxwell forced a smile. Good morning. She rested her chin on his shoulder. You woke up early. I couldn't sleep. You've been saying that a lot lately. Maxwell laughed softly. I'm getting old. Becky rolled her eyes. You are in your 30s. Exactly. She laughed. The sound made Maxwell smile. A real smile. For a few seconds, he almost forgot everything. Almost. Becky stood up. Come here. What for? Come here. Maxwell walked over. She kissed him. A quick kiss. Then another. Then one more. Becky smiled. There. Maxwell laughed. There what? My daily payment. Payment. 3 kisses. Maxwell shook his head. You are impossible. And you married me. Maxwell smiled. Best decision I ever made. The moment those words left his mouth, the guilt returned. Stronger than before. Because he meant them. Every word. Later that afternoon, Maxwell was at work. But he could not focus. He stared at his computer screen. The words in front of him looked meaningless. His phone suddenly buzzed. A message from Becky. Thinking about you. Maxwell stared at the screen. A few seconds later, another message arrived. Don't forget our dinner tonight. Maxwell closed his eyes. He had forgotten. Not because he didn't care. Because his mind was drowning. He quickly replied, I won't forget. A heart emoji appeared from Becky. Maxwell looked away. His chest tightened. Every act of love felt like punishment now. That evening, Becky spent nearly an hour getting ready. She stood in front of the mirror, fixing her hair. Maxwell watched from the bed. You look beautiful. Becky smiled. Only beautiful. Maxwell laughed. No. What then? You look amazing. Becky smiled wider. Better. She walked over. Do you know something? What? You've been staring at me for 5 minutes. I have not. You have. I haven't. You have. Maxwell laughed. Becky laughed too. For a moment, everything felt normal. Like before. Before the secret became too heavy to carry. The restaurant was quiet. Soft music played in the background. Becky looked happier than she had all week. She talked about movies. She talked about food. She talked about places she wanted them to visit together. Maxwell listened. Sometimes he laughed. Sometimes he smiled. Sometimes he completely forgot she was speaking. Not because he wasn't interested. Because his mind kept returning to the same place. The same secret. The same fear. The same question. Tell her. Or stay quiet. Becky suddenly snapped her fingers. Maxwell! He blinked. What? I've been talking. Sorry. She smiled. Where did you go? Nowhere. Becky studied him carefully. Then she smiled again. You're thinking too much. Maybe. Or maybe he wasn't thinking enough. On the drive home, Becky rested her head against the window. The city lights passed by. The road was quiet. Then Becky suddenly spoke. I love you. Maxwell gripped the steering wheel tighter. I love you too. No. What? I mean it. Maxwell looked at her. She smiled. I really love you. Maxwell felt something break inside him. Not completely, just enough to hurt. Because every time she said those words, the secret became harder to carry. That night they sat together on the couch. No television, no phones, just the two of them, talking, laughing, sharing stories, the way couples do when they genuinely enjoy each other's company. At some point, Becky rested her head on his shoulder. Neither of them spoke. The silence felt peaceful, at least for Becky. For Maxwell, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, one step away from disaster. The next morning came. Again. 3 kisses, a smile, a hug, a good morning. Everything looked perfect. But Maxwell was beginning to realize something. The more love Becky gave him, the more difficult it became to keep pretending. Because she trusted him completely. And trust was a beautiful thing. Until you became the person breaking it. That afternoon, one of his friends called. The same friend who believed he should tell the truth. Have you told her? No. A sigh came from the other side. What are you waiting for? Maxwell leaned back in his chair. I don't know. Yes, you do. No. You were scared. Maxwell remained silent. His friend continued. And honestly, I don't blame you. Maxwell closed his eyes. I love her. I know. I don't want to lose her. I know. Maxwell swallowed hard. But keeping quiet won't change what happened. The words hit him harder than expected. Because they were true. Painfully true. That evening, Maxwell arrived home. Becky was in the kitchen. The smell of food filled the house. The moment she saw him, she smiled. You're home. Maxwell nodded. I'm home. Becky walked over and hugged him. Tightly. Comfortably. Like she always did. Maxwell hugged her back. But this time, he held her a little longer. A little tighter. As if he was afraid of losing her. As if he already knew something she didn't. Becky pulled back slightly. Everything okay? Maxwell looked into her eyes. For a brief moment, he almost told her. The words reached his throat, ready to come out, ready to finally be free. But fear won again. Everything is fine. Becky smiled. Good. Then she took his hand. Come help me with dinner. Maxwell followed her. But as he walked behind his wife, a terrible thought entered his mind. How many more times would he say, everything is fine, before he finally found the courage to tell the truth? 3 days passed, then 4, then 5. Maxwell kept telling himself he would do it tomorrow. Tomorrow became another tomorrow, and another, but the truth refused to stay quiet. Every morning, Becky smiled at him. Every evening, she waited for him. Every night, she fell asleep beside him. And every day, Maxwell felt worse. The guilt was no longer a weight. It was a prison, and he was trapped inside it. One evening, Maxwell sat alone in his car again. The engine was off. The house stood in front of him. The same house, the same lights, the same woman waiting inside. But tonight felt different. Very different. Because for the first time, Maxwell was tired. Not tired of Becky. Not tired of his marriage. Not tired of life. He was tired of hiding. Tired of pretending. Tired of lying. He took a deep breath. Then another. Then he stepped out of the car. Becky was sitting on the couch when he entered. She smiled immediately. There you are. Maxwell smiled weakly. Yeah. Becky looked at him carefully. The smile slowly disappeared. Maxwell. He swallowed. Can we talk? Becky sat up straight. Of course. His heart began racing. Fast. Very fast. The moment had arrived. The moment he had feared for so long. And suddenly he wanted to run. He wanted to leave. He wanted another week. Another month. Another year. Anything but this. But he couldn't. Not anymore. A few minutes later, They were sitting together in the living room. The television was off. The house was quiet. Maxwell's hands were shaking. Becky noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" Maxwell looked down. No answer. "Maxwell." Still nothing. Becky moved closer. Now she was worried. Very worried. "You're scaring me." Maxwell felt tears forming in his eyes. He quickly looked away. "Please." His voice cracked. "Please stay calm." Becky's heart began pounding. "Stay calm." Maxwell nodded. "Please." Now she was terrified. "Maxwell, what is going on?" He pointed toward the couch. "Can you sit down?" Becky stared at him, then slowly sat down. Her mind was racing. Questions filled her head. Was he sick? Was someone dead? Did he lose his job? What was happening? Maxwell stood there for a few seconds. Then suddenly, he dropped to his knees. Becky's eyes widened. "Maxwell!" He was already crying. Tears ran down his face. Real tears. Painful tears. The kind of tears that come from a broken heart. "Please forgive me." Becky froze. "What?" "Please forgive me." "Forgive you for what?" Maxwell lowered his head. His shoulders trembled. Becky had never seen him like this before. Not once. Not ever. Fear gripped her chest. "Maxwell." Her voice was shaking now. "What happened?" Maxwell couldn't answer. The words refused to come out. For weeks, he had imagined this moment. And now that it was here, he wished it wasn't. Becky moved closer. "Talk to me." Maxwell cried harder. "Please forgive me." "Maxwell, you're frightening me." The room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. Neither of them could escape what was coming. "Please." Maxwell wiped his face. "I never wanted to hurt you." Becky's stomach dropped. A terrible feeling entered her chest. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "What did you do?" Maxwell closed his eyes. More tears fell. His entire body shook. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then finally, after all the fear, after all the lies, after all the sleepless nights, after all the guilt, Maxwell opened his mouth and told the truth. "I cheated on you." Becky stopped breathing. Maxwell looked at her. His heart shattered into pieces. And then he said the words that changed everything. "I cheated on you with your secretary." And Becky said, "What?" If this story touched your heart, then it has done its job. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.